video games. They're pretty cool, right?
I adore the medium and have since I was a kid. I spent hours and hours attempting to complete the Pokédex in Pokemon Pearl. It's definitely shaped the person I am today. But I never fully sat down and thought about what video games are.
That is, until I heard news about the Untitled Goose Game. This is Stuart. He's the art director for the Untitled Goose Game, and he kindly agreed to sit down with me to discuss his thoughts as a member of the industry.
Did you expect the game to sort of take off the way it did?
Not even a little bit, I think. So the kind of story of the game was a bit strange. We put together a trailer for an exhibition we were showing at in Austin in Texas, and that exploded a little bit in a way that I think none of us had anticipated at all. And so we had a very stressful, sleepless night just watching like retweet numbers go up in a way that we couldn't really comprehend. We decided pretty early on that the kind of best foil for a goose is a kind of small, peaceful English village. You can really, it kind of sets the stakes quite low. Yeah, a lot of the game's kind of visuals came from combing through a lot of data on Google Maps of like small British villages and trying to like nail those kind of landscapes and those buildings, and just kind of like nice subdued atmosphere that you could then inject a little bit of chaos into. I still really like seeing people's like very elaborate fan art and like interesting takes on like, or even just like interesting ways to play the game. Watching speedruns obviously has been like fascinating. We love sitting around in the office and watching like people just break the game in really interesting ways. Yeah, I think I have a very permissive view of what constitutes art. I think pretty much any kind of creative output, if the creator of that media or whatever it is wants to call it art, then it's allowed to be art.
As someone within the industry, what's your opinion on institutes like Acme in terms of them preserving video games?
I guess I always understood that Acme preserved games. I think a lot about Acme. I go to Acme a fair bit. Pretty much everyone I know talks constantly about how bad it is that video games don't really get preserved often. I think they really do exist as part of like weird little bits of culture that kind of bubble up to the surface and then immediately die, and you don't really hear much about them at all. It was very nice to feel like, oh, this institution that I really like and respect has chosen to preserve our game.
For those who aren't aware, Acme is the most well-known tech museum in Australia. They do all kinds of media conservation. But this stuff can still be pretty technical. So I sat down with Cindy, a video game conservationist, to get the full rundown of how this all works.
Is there a particular reason why currently you're focusing quite a bit on video game preservation?
There's some wonderful things, particularly about video games of the 90s, in that it's really difficult to get the emulations working properly. It takes a lot of fiddliness to get them to go. The games of the 90s had very different requirements for sound cards and graphics cards that are not necessarily emulated at this point. One of the games that really inspired me in probably 1998 or 99 was Microsoft's Asheron's Call, which was an online game that you played with other people. And so you had this little avatar and you'd be running around like killing rabbits and things to gain strength so that you could then go on quest. Lately, I played Untitled Goose Game, of course, which just totally cracked me up.
What makes, in your opinion, a good or appropriate emulator for a game?
Well, it should have some fidelity to the original. I mean, that is important to a lot of people, and to being able to play the game, right? The aspect ratio should be right. It should be able to reproduce the sound appropriately, including the background sound as well as the, kind of the background music as well as the sound effects of the game itself. Has been a difficult thing to make happen in some emulators. You are seeing more interactive kinds of museums these days, like Acme. So there's something different about that, right? Keeping your consoles and keeping the computers working and letting people use it, visitors come in and actually touch and use the thing, is rather controversial. Like you go to an art museum and you're not supposed to touch any of the things, and you go into some of these more interactive museums like Science Works or the Exploratorium or things like that. where the exhibits are intended for you to start touching them and interacting with them. So now, this is a game called The Dame Was Loaded. I have already imaged it on the CD. It was a CD game. So I made an ISO image, added it to Windows 98 in this emulation as a service infrastructure. Now I've started it up. So you see, it's surrounded by, all of the controls of the emulation as a service, but then here's the game in its window. Acme uses this same tool, actually this exact same instance, which is connected to their catalog. And when you are on the intranet, on site at Acme, you can log in and play this game if you show up there with a computer or a pad or your phone. This is kind of the future of emulation of games and other kinds of software, media arts, and data preservation things that we're at the very forefront of here in Australia. This is definitely an art. It was not considered such at its beginning. It was something frivolous and odd, but it's now becoming very apparent that it's an art form.
Art. It might not be something you've thought about much, but as Cindy said, video games are art. Art itself can come off as very elitist, something almost exclusive. However, by talking with Robert, a Melbourne-based artist, he explained to me just how broad art truly is.
What do you consider to be the general definition of art?
The general definition of art is a piece that that expresses the creativity of the maker, a piece that shows emotion or can generate a reaction from the audience. As an artist, during COVID, I felt like the arts were stifled, but I think it also helped artists to see what is the purpose of me creating art. Why do I do that? Why have I made this my life journey to create art? So the purpose of art could be education, it could be understanding the mindset of an artist, but it also could be politically motivated, and a beautiful artwork kind of touches on all of those. What I feel the value of ACME or the NGV is to bring art that may be out of the perspective of what we would normally think of as art, and the challenge the viewer to think differently about art, to see something that either challenges them or makes them question something or draws them in. And I think that's the value of, say, ACME or NGV, bringing work that we may not be able to have access to into the realm of the gallery or studio. Art should always cross the boundaries of what we consider to be something that should be admired and appreciated and loved, over something that should just be for a highbrow. And that's always pissed me off. There's a whole creative industry for music for video games, and I thought, what? But then when I heard those, it brought back memories of playing these games or seeing the cinematic, theatrical a bit that a video game can create. You're immersed into this world, and is that creativity? It certainly is. Is that stimuli and visually appealing? It absolutely is. So I think it's a new genre for the 21st century that draws a younger audience into what is art, what is that, and what is, why do I have to care about it, and why is it so wonderful for me? In video games, you can stop it and then search all around and see the intricate details that the artists have made to create this video experience for you. I think that's fantastic. The more video games grow as an art form, the more they become considered as an art form. Video games wasn't stagnant. It was one that said, I invite you into my world, into my art form. and you are a necessary part. My art form is stagnant without you coming in and interacting and enjoying that experience. And how do I honk? Open the door. Oh, there it is.